Not every project has to be big, important, or even necessary. Sometimes you just get an idea and go with it because you can. Today's one of those days. I'm making a leather handle cover for my old roller bag. Don't really need it, but I kind of want to do it. So let's make something cool just because. I've already drawn my design and cut my leather, wet it with a little bit of water, and now we're going to transfer that design onto the leather. Go ahead and tape that design down, and you notice I've got it on a cutting board, and that way as we do this I can move that cutting board around to get better angles as I transfer the design. So just using a ballpoint pen, I trace it, and that'll leave an indentation in that wet leather. Working with leathers can be pretty fun. Years ago I had a motorcycle that I wanted to make a seat. I had a vision for the seat in my head, and you couldn't buy it. So I made a seat pan out of metal and then went to the store and asked the guy, how do I do this with leather? He gave me a few pointers, bought some beginner items, and went to work figuring out how to do it. So here we go, we're going to pull off that design, and you'll see it left an imprint in the leather that we're going to use to cut it and tool it and get that design imprinted in our leather. So we're going to grab a swivel knife. It lets us kind of turn that blade around as we cut our design in. You can put different tips in it. I just have a square tip. I found that's what I like. And what we're going to do is put a small cut into the leather so that then we can use different tools to stamp the design in how we see fit. This isn't a standard design where I'm following instructions. I'm just kind of doing it how we see. So with a little bit of pressure, you're not cutting all the way through the leather, you're just cutting the top layer so that you're separating those fibers, I guess. And as you follow the design, that knife will swivel. You can use your, I guess I'm using my middle finger and thumb to twist it as the index finger is applying that downward pressure going across into the design we made. You just keep doing this until it's all the way cut. This is kind of step one when tooling leather. Just as with most anything, it's best to practice this before you're actually cutting your final piece of leather that you want to use. So do some random drawings, get out some scrap leather, and just go to town practicing, getting used to using that swivel knife, because that is kind of the key for everything going forward. So you see there, we've got the whole design cut into the leather. And the possibilities from here are somewhat endless, especially if you don't kind of follow the rules. You just have a vision of what you want it to look like. You can use anything. You can buy stamps from a leather store, which I have. You can use things around the house too to get the impression you want in the leather. It's kind of makes it fun that way. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to bevel it all. So I have different style bevels, which is what these are here. And basically they're going to push one side of that cut line down. And some of the bevels have cross hatching, some are smooth, some have lines. And I'll use different bevels for different places. And again, this is just how I want to see it. So I'm starting off with just a smooth, big bevel. And I've found that if I trace it all, applying a good bit of pressure with that index finger, I go ahead and trace the whole design. That makes the stamping with the hammer a little easier as we go forward. So we're just we're starting that leather impression. You can see it there in the leather where it starts to fold over on the outside of that cut line. So it's just, I've found that this is a good way to start. And from there, then we'll grab the hammer and then put the final indentions into it, I suppose. And again, you don't have to use, store-bought tools, I don't believe. I've used Dremel tools, I've used bits from the garage, just different things to get different designs that you want to use. So once it's all kind of initially pressed down with that bevel, then we'll go ahead and grab, I'm going to use the same bevel here to start with because I like that smooth beveled look going on all the outside. And we'll hammer that design in. Again, you kind of learn what works for you, and for me, just basically rather than one firm hit and then move over a little bit, another firm hit, I just kind of do a bunch of small taps and I'm getting a much smoother impression in the leather. I don't want to see the lines where the stamp ends and then begins on the next hit, the next strike with the hammer. I want it to be smooth over the whole thing. So just kind of a pop, 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 pop all the way across. And you see those lines. You can see right there at the top where the edges of that stamp. We're going to work those out as we go along. See there, kind of going back and forth and just working it until you get to the point where you like it. And I like a smooth bevel to leave a smooth edge. It's kind of the purpose of it. This process can take a little while, so put the radio on, put a podcast on, and start taking your time. Get a feel for what works with the design you're trying to do. So here I want mainly the C and the N. This is a logo I've had for a company, a business, I guess. All around that C and the N, I want it to be a smooth bevel. So I'm just working it, and I keep going back and forth to get it smooth. I don't want to see the strikes where the stamp is, the adjacent strikes is, I guess, if that makes sense. Just keep working it back and forth and trying to use that mallet evenly. And again, once I've got it all kind of hammered down, then I'm going to go back over and smooth it with quite a bit of pressure right here. Again, something I've found that just kind of gets it to the point where I like it. And now we have all of the smooth bevel done. I'm going to use some of those other design bevels for the prop and the lower portion of the wings. Okay, for the bottom of those wings, I'm going to use a crosshatch bevel. You can see the design cut into the end of the tool there. That's going to leave that imprint into the leather. It's pretty forgiving because there is all of that kind of chaos in the design, but you can still see the strikes from the tool placement side to side. So just even pressure and work that through. But I do like those different designs. Like here on the prop, to kind of denote speed, we're going to use just a straight line bevel. It's not a crosshatch, it's just straight lines. I'm only going to put that on one side of the prop to kind of denote that it's spinning and give it that look of speed. And here's our finished product as far as tooling the design goes. That's the spot where I like it. And next we're going to move on to color, staining the leather and putting the finishes on. Before dyeing the leather, something I didn't show here, I like to put a light coat of olive oil over it and let that soak in, and it makes the dyes and the finishes seem to go on more evenly for a better finish. And for dyeing the leather, again, this is kind of dealer's choice. You pick the colors you like. I use the standard Phoebing's dyes from Tandy Leather. You can get them on Amazon, different things, but just have a variety of colors. You can kind of mix them to make some custom colors if you like. But for this design, I just wanted some contrast. I wanted it to be overall dark and black to match my roller bag, which it doesn't wind up staying black in the end because of the finish that I used. So I was using red for the C and the N and some brown for the wings and the props. And then I was going to slick everything over with a black antique finish. And that's the part that it's so old. I've had that finish since I had my motorcycle, this antique stain here, that it wasn't holding the black, and it wound up being brown. But I liked the way it looked, added some good contrast, and kind of made my bag stand apart. So I went ahead and stuck with it. So again, you just pick the colors that work for you and give it a try. Take some practice runs on some test leather and see what you like, and then finally go for it. That same mentality that led me to leatherworking in the beginning, that I have an idea in my head of what I want my motorcycle to look like, and you cannot buy it. That mentality of just figuring it out, learning a new skill, and customizing something or making it, improving upon it so it works for you. That's why I love these projects. That's why I love doing things like this. This roller bag I've had since the early 2000s when I was at the airlines. They're expensive. They do last a long time, but they break. And as they break, rather than just buying a new one, I take the opportunity to improve it, fix it, and customize it and make it my own along the way. Now that the finish is applied, we're ready to stitch it to the handle. So you'll notice I've only popped holes on one side. That's because as you stamp leather, it'll spread the leather out. It'll make it bigger. So I didn't pop the other holes in until I had all that done. And right here, I'll measure out and mark where I want the hole so it's nice and tight. I don't want it to just be spinning around loosely. So get that, that new measurement of where I want them, mark a line, pop those holes. And again, when you start, you don't have to have all the tools. I don't remember the name, but call it a stitching punch. I don't know. I've acquired these along the way, but you don't have to have them just to start. If you have an idea, you can use a needle or just something pokey and mark out the holes and poke them, and just learn the process as you go, and then buy the tools as you need them. You don't have to have all the stuff from the beginning. Now my bag is supposed to be all black per company policy, but I do have little hints of red accents kind of spread across it. That's why the C and the N, I went and dyed them red. I'm going to use some red thread here to lace this handle on, just to add that little pop, to customize it. It makes it easy to recognize and know that it's mine. And so this threading the needle, tying the needle to the thread, I guess, is a little trick. If you pay attention to how I'm doing this, you thread the lacing through the needle and then push the needle through the thread like I just showed. It gives you a nice little small knot that holds it on the needle as you go lacing your leather. I forget the name of the stitch that I'm using. I'm not a professional. I do this all as hobbies, but I remember the task and the new skill that I learned, and I remember how to do this lacing. So in this one, you use 2 needles, one on each side of the thread, and you start it through the holes on one end, and then just work your way across. There's books, there's YouTube, you can go figure out how to do it. Hopefully I'll show you enough here to get an idea of what's going on, and you can see it and give it a go yourself. Lacing can take some time depending on how much you have to do. I've laced things on somebody's motorcycle. I made them an entire leather wrap that contained the cables, the brake cables and electric cables going down some 8-hangers. And it was a thick leather and a lot of it. It took me, I don't know, days to lace all that. And it kind of will hurt your hands and tear it up. So I learned to use these, just some needle nose pliers to help pull the needle through and kind of save my fingers a little bit. Again, just learned it over time. But they're fun projects. I love fun projects. Hopefully you do too. Now thinking about that 8-hanger wrap that I did, I wish I had pictures or videos. That was a fun project. It was kind of daunting at how big it was and how much I did on the front of that bike, but it was a lot of fun, and it was a lot of kind of mental gymnastics, figuring it out, drawing up my own plans, making your own stencils and templates, and cutting the leather and working out the problem to really customize an end product, I guess. It was really for my dad, so it's not selling any of this stuff, just enjoying the process and learning something new. You gotta keep learning something new. So here we're pretty much done with the lacing. Once you get to the end, go back 2 to 3 holes, and it kind of locks that stitch in. Tie it off, cut it, and then hit it with a lighter to melt that thread down. The leather cover is now stitched to the handle. It's nice and tight, but the ends of the leather aren't even because I didn't cut it that way, right? I made the holes line up, not the leather. So now we got to make the leather look good by cutting it even across both pieces, and then beveling the edge, and then slicking the leather. Then we'll apply the black stain. Slick it with a homemade oak slicker that I made on the lathe, and the project's done. It's time to put the bag back together and get off to work. You never know where you're going to wind up when you have a need to fix something or a desire to customize something. I never thought that leatherworking, I would be doing it as long and as randomly in places as I have ever since I decided I wanted a leather motorcycle seat. So that's what's great about these kind of projects and tasks. You learn something new that down the road you'll have a new skill set that you can apply wherever you want to. That's great. That's fun. I hope you enjoy it. Get out there and customize your own.